Welcome to The Author's Attic, a production brought to you by Social Problems, the official journal of SSSP, the Society for the Study of Social Problems. I'm your host, Casey Henricks, and today I'll be joined by Professor Jacob Rugh to discuss his new article. The paper is entitled Race, Space, and Cumulative Disadvantage, a case study of the subprime mortgage collapse, and it was co-authored with Professors Lynn Albright and Douglas Massey. Without further ado, please let me welcome to the Author's Attic, Professor Jacob Rugh.
Our case study is focused on one of the largest civil rights settlements in the wake of the housing crisis that centered on the city of Baltimore, Maryland. In this study, we are interested in understanding how does segregation affect the outcomes that different customers experienced, both in the lending process in terms of receiving a high-cost subprime loan, as well as disparities in the price of that loan and interest rates, as well as the performance of that loan, how likely it was to go into foreclosure, and also to result in a completed foreclosure where these customers lost the wealth and home equity that they had built up in their home. So part of our research is kind of based on the idea that these neighborhoods that are segregated suffer from a spatial stigma associated with race and space, such that people have stereotypes about what types of people live here, what their credit worthiness is, despite what objective criteria might show. So our two key kind of hypotheses in this study are that customers who are black will suffer discrimination at the individual level and end up being more likely to have a high-cost subprime mortgage, a riskier mortgage, and to pay more each month that they have the loan. And that individuals that live in majority black neighborhoods, who are mostly black due to discrimination, but also borrowers of other races, will also pay more and end up bearing more risk. So what we find is that among our sample, the ratio of subprime lending between blacks and whites, just what we observed, the averages, are about 3 to 1. So about 64% of blacks receive high-cost subprime loans compared to 18% of whites. After controlling for other factors, the ratio is closer to about 1.5 to 1, such that a great deal of the disparity is explained, but that it is statistically significant what remains, so that it cannot be explained by objective factors, and we attribute that resulting discrepancy to discrimination and neighborhood disadvantage as the result of neighborhood racial segregation. We observed these loans for several years through the end of 2012. These loans were made anywhere from 2000 to 2008. We observed that blacks on average are paying about $1,800 more than whites, which represents about a 5% penalty or extra amount paid on the loans. While that may not sound like a lot, it accumulates to about $15,000 over the life of the loan. We found that borrowers who have higher incomes end up paying a higher discrepancy, about 6% of their loan, and those with more risky loans securitized in private label mortgage-backed securities that Wall Street firms packaged and that so infamously disappeared in 2007, that the disparity on those loans is about twice as high, about 11%. And when we look down the road at what happens later on to these customers and their loans, we find that there's a large number of foreclosures, and that many of these, of course, would have happened because there was a large drop in home prices. But of the foreclosures that we observe, we estimate that about 1 in 3 of those foreclosures are due to this excess risk and excess discrimination that we can't explain using all the factors that are employed by loan officers to underwrite a loan, such as credit scores, incomes, and other factors. So up to 1/3 of foreclosures could have been averted, according to our findings, had blacks and whites been treated equally and had black and white neighborhoods also been treated equally. And the tangible cumulative cost is pretty astounding. If you multiply the cost of the excess payments by the number of people in the sample, you see that the loss was about $2 million just in the years that we observed among this sample of about 1,200 black customers. And you can see that as a result of the excess foreclosures, they also lost about $2 million in home equity. And this is adjusted for home prices falling throughout the housing crash. And due to the high rates of racial segregation in places like Baltimore, we estimate that about 90% of these losses to black customers and black households occurred in black neighborhoods, thus cementing the nexus between race and space and the cumulative disadvantage over time that is concentrated and focused in geographic space in segregated neighborhoods.